Alright, so in this video I'm going to walk you through how to place images, how to add text, and how to edit colors, and how to work with the guides in InDesign. So this is my demo card that I have made. I'm going to walk you through how to begin building that. So I'm going to go set up my document. And my settings should be the same from the last time. Double check. It's good. Okay, so this is my blank document. I'm going to toggle. You guys won't have a before and after, but I'm going to toggle back and forth just to kind of so you guys can see what's happening here. I have some text, I have a shape, I have some images, and we're going to talk about how to go about using InDesign to create solid quality layouts. InDesign is excellent when it comes to optimizing layout and type. So we're going to talk about how to use some of those features. Okay, so I'm going to begin by creating an image placeholder. So this is, or the rectangle frame tool, if you hit F on your keyboard, I'm going to create an image placeholder. Like that. And then I'm going to bring in, if I hit Command D, or if I go to File, Place, I'm going to go to where I found my housing image there. So I'm going to be building a rack card for a lawn care site. Okay, so you'll notice that sometimes when you place an image into InDesign, first of all, you want to make sure that you've resized them in Photoshop as much as possible to get as true to your document size, because that's going to make things a lot easier on Photoshop. You can go up to Objects, Fitting, and I'm going to say Fit Content Proportionally, and it is going to fit the content to that frame. Now, if I wanted to edit that, if you double click, you'll see it changes from the blue to brown. This is my actual image boundary. So if I wanted to hold Shift and actually scale that to the full frame, that will allow me to kind of crop in on the image. So remember, we have a bleed on this file. So anything that extends beyond this would essentially get cut off. So you want to make sure that you don't have any super important content, but you do want to make sure that it goes all the way to the bleed line so that we make sure that when this actually does go to the printer, that everything's going to come out like we want it. And if I toggle back and forth, if I hit W on my keyboard, this is actually what my 4x9 rack card looks like. This is it with the bleed. So you can toggle back and forth from those views. And that is here, down in the preview mode, or you can hit W on your keyboard. Okay, now I'm going to copy and paste this shape over into InDesign. I use the pen tool to build it. InDesign also has basic shape tools here, but your pen tool works just like it does in Illustrator. So as long as you connect your points, you can make whatever shapes that you want. Copy, paste. So since I'm building one for a lawn care service, I thought this was appropriate just to have this nice green shape. And I put the white stroke around the image to give that some division between, or around the shape, sorry, to give that some division there. So when I applied my color, I went over, I'm going to select, let's do a blank shape so you can see how this works. So I'm going to go to Fill, I'm going to go to my color picker, add a color, and then if you want to add a stroke around that color, there you go. So remember, I have these white borders. Those are going to be chopped off because that's beyond my bleed. I really just want the white line. But if you put a stroke around it, whatever's off the page is going to be cut off. So you can kind of manipulate it that way. Okay. Okay. And then let's add some more text. So I'm going to create a text box. Just click and drag that over here. And title of my business is Simple Green Lawn Care. I'm going to go over and select my type. Now, when you are working with something the size of a rack card, basic body text, a lot of us think that 12 is good, but you can actually go down to 10 or 11 depending on how big you want something to be. You do want to make sure that you are creating hierarchy and guiding the viewer. So for example, this is the header, could possibly be the logo. This is the header and name of my business. So I'm going to make sure it's one of the larger things on the page. Here I change my font. You can use the center left or right alignment there in the paragraph options to align your text. So I have that. And when you're talking about good typography, one of the things is you want to stick within a fairly large type family. You can download and install fonts from the internet. Do not use DaFont. That's so basic. Use better font sites. I will put a list of font sites and places on Blackboard. You can download fonts straight through Adobe Typekit. That's super handy. Google Fonts and Adobe Typekit are two of my favorite, but I will also share some with you on Blackboard. And when I say type family, for example, Gotham that's my type, right? And the family are the light italic, the book italic. So this is all the same typeface, but because I have these different attributes, I can create structure and hierarchy and contrast through my fonts. So for my headers are going to be bold, and for my body text, it's going to be the lighter weight. So I'm using the same font, I'm using the same typeface, but because I'm working within that family, gives me that versatility. So you want to make sure that when you select type and fonts, you want to make sure that you could use one, and I'm going to use just one typeface throughout this whole thing. I'm just going to work with the whole family of Gotham. Typically, you want to keep around 2, 3 max typefaces, but ideally 2. And you want to make sure that, again, that they're families and they have those larger attributes. Okay. See there, I've got like 6 or 7 different options just on that one type family. Okay. And then I'm going to go same thing here. I used my Gotham book, so my lighter typeface. I'm just copying and pasting that because we talked about how to create type there. And now I'm going to create another text box, so click and drag. And this is ideally where you guys would put it in copy. I'm going to fill with placeholder text just so we can see what that looks like. First I have to go and format my placeholder text. Again, I'm going to go back to my type family there. Click white. Perfect. Take a few lines here. Drag that up just a little. So one thing too you want to really keep in mind is spacing and margin. So here I have a 1/4 inch margin on each side of my type there. And everything has breathing room. You want to make sure, especially if it's something that's text heavy, you want to make sure that you are keeping some breathing room for the viewer. So if I hit W on this, I've got some uneven white space here. So I'm going to move all of this down just a little bit. I actually think I'm going to move my headline a little bit closer to my paragraph text. Move that up. Move it back down just a little bit. So your white space doesn't necessarily have to be, exact equal. I mean, if it can be, that's the best. But you just want to make sure that overall it looks balanced, right? Bring in those design principles. You want to make sure that everything is balanced, whether it's symmetrically balanced or it's asymmetrically balanced, and you have a good quality of that positive and negative space. So again, if we take a look at the hierarchy, I've got my header, which is the biggest, or my call to action, if you will, is the largest header. And then I have, this is kind of a subheader because it's a little bit smaller in size. and this is my paragraph text. So whatever you use for your paragraph text, that should be the same throughout the document. So the same for the headers. So whatever your main header is, you use the same height and style. Your subheader, same height and style. Paragraph text, same height and style. That's going to help you keep that consistency and make sure that it's easy to guide the viewer through the document. Okay, on my second page, I'm going to take a look at, I've got over here. So again, I'm just going to talk to you guys as I copy and paste. I'm just going to talk to you guys about what I'm doing here and how I came about that. So again, this is that same shape that I copied and pasted from here. I just stretched it. So if we copy and paste this shape, I could do this to it, or I could do this to it. And it's also a vector. So if I wanted to turn this and have it, coming off the page and pointing to something, I could. Right, so with here, you guys, these vectors, so this icon symbol is a vector. You can create those in Illustrator. You can copy and paste them in. You can create them with the pen tool in InDesign. The pen tool in InDesign is not going to function as well as in Illustrator. So if you're doing detailed things, I do that in Illustrator and then copy and paste it over. These were actually downloaded from VectEasy. So if you maybe don't have a ton of time to create your icons, or if you want to borrow some icons for the nature of this course, that's okay, as long as you let me know that those icons are not yours. So for example, when you turn this in, if you turn this into me, you would say vectors from VectEasy. You just want to make sure, and VectEasy's website, since they allow you to download free things, they ask that you attribute those icons. So you would say vectors from VectEasy. You don't have to put it on the document for me. You can just tell me that that's where those came from. So here I created a paragraph. I have a header, or a subheader, if you will. This is my subheader, and then this is my body copy. So residential services, an icon that's associated with that. And then here I would have information about residential services, same for the commercial services. So again, that consistency. One thing is with icons, these are obviously slightly different sizes. So you just want to make sure that they're proportional to each other. And what I have done is I have aligned the center of the icons through here. So they're aligned kind of on their center. And I've tried to make sure that there's almost an equal amount of space between the icon, or a margin between the icon and paragraph area. So just paying attention to those fine-tuning things and to your layout. Copy and paste this over. So again, what you want to do, you never want to just paste text directly into InDesign. You want to make sure that you create a text box first, and then you paste that information in, okay? And then from there, you can format your type. All right, so one more thing I want to cover is color in InDesign. So InDesign will begin with a certain amount of swatches. I have these different swatches because I've created them. In InDesign, you do have to create your color swatches, but you can do that a couple of different ways. You can work with the Pantone color libraries. You can look up CMYK color swatches, or you can even pull them directly through Adobe Color. So a couple of different ways there. If I say create new color swatch, I'll start out as black. So here I can mix. So if you just say you want, like, first of all, you take the black out of it. Say if you want kind of a rosy color or a pink, you can mix that. So once you say, hey, okay, I like that, good to go, okay. So that is a process color. So the process color is the CMYK value. So it's mixing that cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which are the colors that you use in the ink in the printing process. And if you guys ever took printmaking, you probably understand that makes sense to you. But the CMYK is a process color. That means when we send it to the printer, it's going to be mixing those colors to create this pink. The other option is to do a Pantone color. And with the Pantone color, I'm going to go to New, Color Swatch. And from here, I can go to Color Type, Color Mode, okay. Apparently it's not wanting to go to Pantone. All right, let's try that again, you guys. We may have to come back to Pantone colors. All right, so create a shape. And color swatch. There we go. So I'm going to say spot color, and I'm going to go to Pantone solid coated. Now the Pantone system has specific numbers associated with certain colors. So here you can see I've got all these beautiful colors. If I wanted a deep navy blue, I'm going to go to Pantone 289, and that's just a super lovely navy blue. Say OK, and there is my Pantone color. Now the big difference is that you want to get used to using those process colors, because when you are using a Pantone color, you are printing that specific ink, and that gets a little bit more expensive to print. So just make habit, just a good practice of using those process colors. You can create a process color based on a Pantone color. You can create that. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to go to, again, new color swatch, process. So here it's process color. If I go to Pantone in my library, it's still going to be process. So if I select, so I'm a different color swatch, this kind of green teal color, it's still going to give me this color, but it's going to spit out the process attributes, the process color. So again. So that is multiple ways to create color. Again, you can also use Adobe Color to help you develop color schemes. All right, so Adobe Color, you guys, if we go here, we've got our library. We can create color libraries, add colors, graphics. If you go directly to Adobe Color's website, you can sync that with your Adobe ID, and you can sync those colors. I was trying to do that on here, but for some reason it's not wanting to play nice today. But that's, we create color, we place graphics, and we worked with just putting those basic and building those elements in there. One more thing that I want to review with you guys before we get done is grids and guides. So you have here, you have a ruler. As long as you have your rulers on, if they're not on, you can go up to View, Show Rulers, or you can hit R on your keyboard. A couple of things you can use here. You can go to View, Grids and Guides. You can say Show Baseline Grid. Okay, and then I'm going to say Show Document Grid. There we go. And so now with my document grid, if I really want to see how things are lined up, this allows me to get that super control. I can see where things are laying. I'm going to hide that one. Okay. And then another thing that I want to show you guys is turn that one off as well. So hide baseline grid. I'm just going to use my grids and guides. So lining up the center of this image. So I'm going to drag a guide here to 2, because ideally the final size of my document is 4 by 9, so that is going to be the center. So if I want to make sure this is aligned, yes. And if I wanted to kind of align things horizontally, I can drag my guides there. So all I'm doing, you guys, clicking and dragging these grids and guides. Now these can be deleted. You can select on them. So if I want to click on this one and hit delete, I can delete it. These are for you. These don't show up when you print. So if I turn on my preview mode, all of those disappear. So I highly recommend using grids and guides to help you line things up. You also have your alignment options too. So if I'm going to select all, first of all, I'm going to kind of put them offset here. I'm going to jumble these up. So these are pretty, messing them up. I'm going to highlight all three of these text boxes. Look at my properties panel. If I scroll down to my properties panel, I have my align area. So I'm going to align them to the left, and then I can move them to the right all together. And then I want to kind of create equal space here. I'm going to say distribute vertical centers. And using your align, you can distribute objects, and you can center align, left align. You have all those different align options. And that helps you control your spacing. Perfect. So that's just kind of the basics of how to get started in InDesign. First of all, go off of your sketches. Use your sketches to help you create your basic layout, and start from there and just start bringing things in to InDesign.